The summons, the emergency beacon reached Earth on a Tuesday morning, cutting through every communication channel with the kind of urgency that made governments stop mid-sentence. Marcus Webb was drinking his third coffee of the day when his tablet lit up with the Galactic Council's seal, a symbol he'd only seen in textbooks and historical documentaries. The message was simple and terrifying. The Arathi scrolls were destabilizing. After 8 centuries of careful preservation, the ancient artifacts had begun emitting energy signatures that threatened 3 inhabited star systems. Nobody knew why. More importantly, nobody could read them well enough to understand what was happening. Marcus set down his coffee and read the message again. He was a cryptographer, sure, but he specialized in dead Earth languages. Sumerian cuneiform was his passion. Linear A kept him up at night. He'd published papers on Rongo script that had won him modest academic acclaim. But alien languages? That was beyond his expertise, beyond anyone's expertise, really. The Galactic Council didn't seem to care about his protests. 3 hours later, a Xanthari diplomatic vessel touched down in the parking lot of Cambridge University, where Marcus taught twice a week. The ship didn't bother with the designated landing zones. This was an emergency. Commander Vrixala was 7 feet tall with skin that shimmered like oil on water. Her species had been spacefaring for 12,000 years, and it showed in the way she carried herself, with the confidence of someone whose civilization had solved problems Earth couldn't yet imagine. She looked at Marcus with eyes that had too many colors to count and spoke through a translation device that made her voice sound like wind chimes. "You are Marcus Webb. You will come with us now." It wasn't a question. Marcus grabbed his worn leather satchel, the one that held his notebooks and reference materials, and followed her onto the ship. 20 minutes later, they were beyond the moon. 6 hours after that, they arrived at the Grand Archive Station, a massive structure that orbited a neutron star in the Kepler sector. The station was older than human civilization, built by the Arathi themselves before their mysterious disappearance 5,000 years ago. It housed the largest collection of pre-contact artifacts in the known galaxy. Scholars from 40 different species worked here, dedicating their lives to understanding the beings who had apparently seeded the galaxy with technology and then vanished without explanation. Marcus stepped off the ship and immediately felt small. The docking bay alone was larger than most Earth cities, with ceiling that disappeared into artificial clouds and floors made of some material that felt alive under his feet. Everywhere he looked, he saw aliens. Beings with too many limbs are not enough. Creatures made of light or crystal or something that seemed to shift between states of matter. They all stopped to stare at him. Humans were still new here, still the curious oddity that had stumbled into galactic society only 200 years ago. Most species had been exploring space longer than humans had been writing. Director Kothmaven met him in the central atrium. She was Quilani, a species that looked like walking gemstones. Her body composed of interconnected crystalline structures that refracted light into impossible patterns. When she moved, she sounded like gentle rain on glass. "Marcus Webb of Earth, we appreciate your prompt arrival." Her translator gave her voice a formal, slightly archaic quality. "You understand the severity of our situation?" Marcus adjusted his glasses, a nervous habit from childhood that served no real purpose since he'd had his eyes corrected years ago. "The message said the scrolls are destabilizing. That's all I know." Kothmaven led him through corridors that seemed to reorganize themselves as they walked, the station's architecture responding to traffic patterns and need. "The Arathi scrolls have been dormant for millennia. 3 weeks ago, they began emanating quantum fluctuations. The energy signature is increasing exponentially. Our best analysts predict a catastrophic event within 60 days if we cannot decode and respond to whatever message the scrolls contain." They entered a vast chamber that took Marcus's breath away. Suspended in the center, protected by shimmer fields and stasis locks, floated 17 obsidian tablets covered in script that seemed to move when you weren't looking directly at it. The characters were beautiful and terrifying, complex beyond anything Marcus had ever seen. They appeared to be written in multiple dimensions simultaneously, symbols that existed in more than 3 spatial planes. Around the tablets, dozens of alien scholars worked at holographic interfaces. Marcus recognized some of the species from his briefings. The Kryn with their probability engines, capable of calculating trillions of possible meanings simultaneously. The Selvari hive mind, 40 individuals thinking as one. The axiom, synthetic beings who processed information faster than biological neurons could fire. All of them had failed. 800 years of the galaxy's best minds and the Arathi script remained impenetrable. "We have tried everything," Kothmaven said quietly. "Quantum linguistic analysis, pattern recognition algorithms, even attempting to reconstruct Arathi neural patterns from archaeological evidence. Nothing works. The script changes meaning based on context we cannot perceive." Marcus stepped closer to the nearest tablet, ignoring the warning chimes from the security system. He could feel it now. The energy Kothmaven had mentioned. It made his teeth ache and his skin prickle. But there was something else too, something the sensors probably couldn't detect. It felt familiar. Not the language itself, but the intention behind it. The way the symbols flowed together. The rhythm of the spacing, the weight of the marks. He'd seen this before in ancient human texts. This particular kind of urgency mixed with artistry. "Director," Marcus said slowly, not taking his eyes off the tablets. "When was the last time anyone actually touched these scrolls?" The crystalline being made a sound like breaking glass. What Marcus's cultural database identified as shock. Touched them? The artifacts are 5,000 years old. We use quantum field manipulation for all examinations. Physical contact would be necessary, Marcus interrupted. He turned to face her, and for the first time since arriving, he smiled. "I think I know why you can't read them. You've been treating them like data." But the Arathi didn't write data. They wrote messages. And messages need to be felt, not just calculated. Kothmaven's crystalline form flickered through a spectrum of colors Marcus couldn't interpret. Around the chamber, work stopped. Every scholar, every scientist, every mind in the room turned to look at the human who had just suggested the unthinkable. Marcus opened his satchel and pulled out his notebook and pen. Simple tools. Ancient tools by galactic standards, but as he would soon prove, sometimes the oldest approaches worked best. "So," he said, looking up at the impossible task before him, "where do we start?" "Oh,